Okay, welcome to this session on supporting systematic reviews. This is part one, looking at searching on the EBSCO interface. So this is the first of two parts, and in this 60-minute session, we'll introduce the concepts of searching the healthcare literature to support systematic reviews from the initial framing of a question, demonstrating a search using the PICO framework, searching for both keywords and subject terms for CINAHL and MEDLINE on the new EBSCO interface. So we're looking at the searching aspect. In this respect, of supporting systematic reviews. Part two, we'll look at how to process results, including saving your search, saving results, etc., using the My Projects folder, and also exporting results. So sign up for part two if you've not already done so. And just to formally introduce myself, I'm Richard Crooks. I work with the EBSCO Customer Training Services team as a senior customer training specialist. I support customers in the UK, Ireland, and the Nordics. And I believe we might have some today from Norway. So welcome. And I'm a chartered librarian, and having worked with EBSCO now for over 14 years, and previously as a medical librarian or related roles in the NHS in England for 12 years or so. So in terms of the actual objectives for this session this morning, I hope that by the end of the session, you'll be able to describe the key steps in searching in support of systematic reviews. And I appreciate a number of you, perhaps most of you, are very experienced in this. Some may not be, of course. You'll be able to plan an appropriate search strategy using the PICO or PICOT framework. And I'll explain more about that as we go through the session. Again, some of you are very familiar with PICO. You'll also be able to locate and use methodological search filters. And also you'll find further support for EBSCO's research databases. And obviously, given that we have a new interface, a lot of the content on EBSCO Connect, our support portal, has been and is being updated regularly. So I hope that's what you're expecting from this session today. So that's the objectives for today. And please feel free to add anything else if you need to know more about searching. Okay, so just a reminder then what we're looking at. So a systematic review is, of course, a review of a clearly formulated question that uses systematic and explicit methods to identify, select, and critically appraise relevant research, and to collect and analyze data from the studies that are included in the review. Now, as I've mentioned and indicated from the outset in this session, we are going to be looking at the identification of what's out there rather than the actual selection and appraising relevant research. We don't typically cover that. We're looking at the searching, followed by the processing of search results, which is, again, is going to be conducted through part two. With that in view, in supporting such reviews, obviously we're attempting to identify all studies, and some would say the majority of studies, if that's not possible, that could meet the eligibility criteria. So the criteria may be designated, determined by the original requester of the review or the team that's working on this, that you'll be notified of in terms of your involvement or participation in this. So there are key points regarding the search steps that we need to look at in terms of identifying what's out there in the literature, so in the various databases that are accessible. And of course, the first thing is ultimately is to understand the research question in the first place. And then, of course, we need to turn that question into a search strategy, a viable search strategy using a combination of keyword searching and subject searching. So the use of the mesh medical headings for MEDLINE or CINAHL headings within the named database, of course. So, and there's some debate whether you should opt to go for a general unqualified keyword search or whether you should focus more on title abstract searching. We're going to have a specific approach in this session today, which I'll refer to when we go to the live demonstration. And also we can incorporate truncation, wildcards, and also proximity search operators to enhance the information retrieval. So to enhance and expand our search to ensure that we're finding the studies that are out there that we need to identify. So we have this research question, of course, that we're going to look at today, and we'll run the live demo based on this as well. So we've got, in adult cancer patients experience fatigue, what is the effect of meditation compared with standard care on quality of life within 6 months? And you'll see from the outset, I've bolded the key terms, the key elements, and also annotated this question with the elements of PICO or PICOT. So we've got adult cancer patients experiencing fatigue. That is the patient element, the population element, or the problem. What is the effect of meditation? That's the intervention, and compared to standard care or with standard care. And also on quality of life, which is the outcome essentially, and then within the 6 month time frame. So the T element is there. So this kind of in this example, in this particular rendering of this question, it fits nicely within the PICO framework, as it were. So just to, again, give more flesh to this, you can see I've got PICOs here. So PICO with a T, if you like. We've got the patient problem initially. Again, I've identified that from the research question, the intervention, meditation, comparison, obviously standard care, outcome, quality of life, and then within 6 months for the time frame. That could also be type of study, by the way. So what you'll see in the row below that, and so we'll be aware of this already, that we have the lowercase terms in italics. These are the keyword search terms, the free text search terms that we can be using, and also synonyms as well. So we've got obviously cancer, we've got neoplasms, oncology, tumor, malignancy, and so on. Plus, we have to factor in the matter of fatigue or tiredness or lethargy or exhaustion. The second column of the course is intervention. So we look at meditation, but it also could be mindfulness therapy, breathing techniques, relaxation techniques, yoga, guided imagery as well. And of course, depending on the experience you have or the foreknowledge you have, you may come up with additional terms. This is just a sampling. I'm not saying this is exhaustive by any means. You may have your own ideas. You may have run searches like this before, and you may have other terms that you'd include. Standard care, not needed as a search term. You could almost second guess that it's implied when you look at an intervention like meditation. It will be compared to the traditional care, if you like. And then the outcome, quality of life, that could be rendered as quality of living, life quality, well-being, and that could be either as 2 words, hyphenated, or 1 word, and related terms. And then type of study, again, we won't search specifically within this particular time frame, of course, at time, but if it's a type of study, we could factor that into it. Now, the third row there, of course, is in uppercase, and these would be the mesh or terms or the CINAHL headings, depending on which database you're using. And invariably, you may search each database because typically in supporting review, you're going to interrogate databases individually rather than cross-search them unless you're doing a scoping exercise initially. So they will differ between databases. Obviously, mesh headings, CINAHL headings are related. They both originate with the National Library of Medicine, but there are variations. MEDLINE focusing primarily on biomedical literature, whereas the CINAHL database is nursing and allied health. So there are variations in some of the terms used. There are obviously some that are identical. So neoplasms, fatigue, exertion could be CINAHL headings that we're using, meditation, yoga, relaxation techniques also, and of course, quality of life. So we're using a combination of keyword searching and subject searching. And now, of course, with keyword searching, you are kind of second guess the authors, the researchers, the experts, what they refer to in their literature, in their articles, in their papers, in terms of condition, intervention, and so on. And then that would also mean that you're retrieving all references, whether they're indexed or not. So you'll find, obviously, in these databases, there are in-process records. They're not fully indexed. In CINAHL, we refer to them as pre-CINAHL. So obviously, free text searching is fine because you will still find references out there. When you rely on the indexing alone, the CINAHL subject headings, the mesh terms, you are depending on those terms being assigned to articles that are indexed. So not all articles have been fully assigned subject headings. So it's a good practice to look at the free text terms in addition to the subject terms, which are more authoritative. Okay. So again, you may have various views on that and experiences with that as well. So the first thing we're going to look at is unqualified searching, and just to explain, the differences really. So within CINAHL, if you run an unqualified keyword search, then you are searching across those fields. So essentially, when you enter your free text search term, such as, for example, cancer, then it will seek to find the free text term, either in the title field, the abstract field, word indexed in the subject headings, so the CINAHL headings, PubMed ID if appropriate, and so on. So these are the default fields that the database is searching when you enter your search terms as an unqualified search. In other words, essentially what it means is that we're leaving it selected as all fields. If it's MEDLINE, there are additional fields that are searched as well, such as personal name, transliterated title, contributed indexing. So there are other fields there. The standard ones are there, like title and abstract, etc., mesh terms. So again, you're searching within those fields by default when you run an unqualified search. In other words, you're not selecting title or abstract or author field from the drop-down menu. So we do have more information on the ways of searching. So you have a link there within the PowerPoint to the EBSCO database help files. So that will give you access to the specific versions of the databases that you're looking at. So we're looking at CINAHL, the basic abstract and index-only version. You may have CINAHL with full text, you may have CINAHL complete, or you may have upgraded to CINAHL Ultimate, as I know some have. So again, the principles that we're looking at will be the same, whichever version of CINAHL, and likewise, whichever version of MEDLINE that we're using. So whether it's MEDLINE full text, MEDLINE complete, or MEDLINE Ultimate. And the search experience will be the same in terms of the default fields for searching. The content obviously will differ in terms of active full text, non-embargo content, which will be much more with the ultimate databases, but we are focusing on the basic versions of both CINAHL and MEDLINE today. Now, also one caveat in terms of the keyword or free text searching, so an unqualified search, is that the results will depend largely on the mode that you choose for searching. And that means, I'd say in most cases, most accounts default to the proximity search mode, which typically means you're searching for your keywords. So for example, if you put in cancer nursing, it would search for cancer near 5 words or less of nursing, and also nursing near 5 words or less of cancer. So the words will be in any order. Now that can be reconfigured in our EBSCO admin tool. So that's the tool that, along with another tool, manages the interface. So that can be adjusted. You can adjust the precision to suit your needs where you are. So I know, for example, in NHS England, the proximity search mode has been relabeled phrase in their discovery service in the Knowledge and Library Hub. And behind that, it's now the W, or within precision operator, W0 means it finds words next to each other in the order you enter them. So cancer nursing would literally, the search would look for cancer nursing where those terms are together. Okay, if you want to be sure of exact phrase searching, then we do advise using double quotation marks. Okay, so we have got more information on EBSCO Connect detailing the search mode. So this will impact, obviously, the unqualified keyword search. If you apply a field code like title or abstract, then that will be overridden essentially. So you'll see there is a context-sensitive help menu, EBSCO Connect, within the search page. So we'll see that live in a moment. Now, the other factor that would also impact the search results when you use free text or keyword searching is the use of expanders. So we have these 3 expanders. They're designed to broaden search results in the EBSCO's interface, and they, again, can be configured differently. So you may find some are defaulted to. In this screenshot, you have apply equivalent subjects. So you can see that there. Others may have all 3 applied, but essentially, apply related words and apply equivalent subjects relate to identifying additional terms from the indexes, from the thesauri of a database. So for example, if you use this within MEDLINE, apply related words would find synonyms and plurals within the MESH index, the medical subject headings, that relate to your original keyword search. If you use apply equivalent subjects, it will take your keyword search term, identify it as a particular concept, and that in turn will then retrieve records from, based on the index of that content that relate to that concept. So there's subtle differences between the two, and also search within the full text will actually search within the body of a full text document. So if you consider 5 years ago when the COVID-19 outbreak occurred, then there wasn't much literature out there. So it may be that this feature would have been used more heavily to identify additional references to that particular condition because there wasn't much published literature. So in other words, you're searching beyond the basic citation, the unqualified search, which you mentioned. You're going then into the book chapter, full text, the full text article, etc. So the good thing it means if the procedure, the treatment, the information is scarce, that may be a way to find additional information. On the other hand, it can particularly retrieve more results than you really need, etc. And they may not be so relevant because it's based on the keywords, the free text appearing within the document itself. So again, we've got more information on using expanders, but as you see there, the note is that the expander is really applicable to unqualified searches, although you will see it indicated in the search history. So it will be shown as on when selected. So again, the context-sensitive help menu is also there. Now, of course, it may be, again, this is subject to debate. I know some institutions defer more now to advising students, for example, PhD students, to perform an unqualified keyword search combined with the subject search when they're supporting certificate reviews. Others will still focus largely on title and abstract searching. And I have to say that I need to update this slide, because where it says title and abstract XB, that is where you can simultaneously search the title and abstract. That's a new field code that was introduced with the new interface. That has now been changed. So you'll see it now says title or abstract live. I know I had some conversations about that in previous sessions. That has now been changed. So on CINAHL MEDLINE, when you see the drop-down menu for XB, it will say title or abstract. So it was performing a title or abstract search, but there was some confusion with the AND operator indicated there as well. So you can see an example here with heart attack or myocardial infarction or cardiac arrest. Those terms we search within both fields, title and abstract, and if those terms appear in any or both of those fields, results will be retrieved. So this is a more focused way of searching, and again, it may be your preferred way of searching in supporting a certificate review, and it will be the way that we will take today. You can also use the command line expression as well if you prefer. So just prefix it with XB and then enter your terms, and that will perform the same search. So either as a command line search as shown there, or via the drop down indicated in the screenshot. So again, any questions or comments on any of these elements, features, or any experience you've had in using them on the new interface, we'd like to hear from you. So please feel free to post that in the Teams chat, share it with your fellow attendees as it were, or if you have any questions, please let us know. Now, the third thing we wanted to cover was the use of truncation wildcards. So it's important to use the appropriate truncation wildcards that are designated as the syntax for EBSCOhost. So you may be familiar with other platforms and they have their specific syntax, and some of them may be very similar, others are different. If you were working in the NHS a number of years ago, you had your own interface, HDAS, and there are certainly differences between that and that which doesn't exist now and the EBSCO's platform. So make sure that whatever syntax you use the syntax that's correct for the platform. So, and I'll refer to more documentation in a moment as well, or later after the demonstration. So we have got the truncation, the asterisk, the star, as it were. So if you want to truncate terms like diabetes, diabetic, etc., you can do so by replacing the last couple of characters with the asterisk. If you want to search with words or phrases which have multiple terms, so the example there is ventilator pneumonia. So you're not only searching for ventilator pneumonia, you're also searching for ventilator associated pneumonia and ventilator acquired pneumonia. So essentially, if you put the asterisk after the first term and the last term, then you'll find the alternative expressions. Another example would be cognitive therapy. If you put in cognitive asterisk therapy, you'd also pick up cognitive behavior therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. For phrase searching, I mentioned this earlier, use double quotation marks. So the example there is influenza vaccine. So you'd retrieve at least one instance of the phrase influenza vaccine appearing somewhere in the appropriate citation fields. And of course, if you extend it to search within the full text, you will also find that phrase within the document as well, at least one occurrence to retrieve the record. Wildcard, we use the question mark to replace a single or unknown character, not to be confused with the hash wildcard, which I'll mention in a moment. So it places literally a single character. The classic example typically used is with men or women. So if you type in women without the A or the E, then it would find both variations, likewise with man or men, etc. And of course, you could use it for organization where you have S or Z as well. So hash wildcard is used for alternate spelling. So obviously between US and British, UK English, as it were. So for pediatrics, you can put the hash after the P before the E to find both variations. If you add the asterisk after the C, then you would find also pediatrics, pediatricians, etc. in both, you could say languages, but US and UK English. And likewise with color, O-R, we'll find OUR as well as OR. And you can also use it for behavior as well. So you have the hash before the R, that'll find both variations in spelling. Okay, so the distinctions are wildcard, question mark, is for a single unknown character, whereas the hash is used for alternate spelling. And you might find if you listen to some tutorials or if you have training from some of my US-based colleagues, they may refer to the pound sign. That is not pound sterling, that is the hash wildcard. So it means the same thing. Okay, then before we move on to the actual search itself, just to clarify, I mentioned the near operator in terms of the proximity search as a search mode. So essentially, it allows you to search within words, a range of words in any order, regardless of the order. So the example there is gallbladder N5 disease. That literally means you will find the term gallbladder near 5 words or less of disease, and also disease within or near 5 words less of gallbladder. So it could be gallbladder diseases, or it could be disease of the gallbladder, for example. Now, within is, as I mentioned, is more restrictive. It searches for the terms in the order you enter them. So if you enter in childhood obesity or childhood W8 obesity, you would search childhood within 8 words of obesity, but not vice versa. Now, multiple terms can also be used on either side of the operator. So if you think we're in flu season, you got flu or influenza as terms, free text terms, and you look at vaccine or vaccinations. Then if you enter flu or influenza, N3 vaccine, and I've truncated it, it would find flu or influenza near 3 words or less of vaccine, vaccines, vaccinated, vaccinations, or vaccine, vaccines, vaccines, vaccinated, vaccinations within or near 3 words or less of flu or influenza. Okay, so I'm using a combination of the Boolean OR there, with flu and influenza, and the near precision operator with 3 words or less, and then the truncation for vaccine. Okay, and just to add here, in terms of other platforms, for example, Ovid uses ADJ, adjacency. If it's ADJ3, it means 2 words or less. The EBSCOhost interface, it's literal, it's 3 or less. Okay, so be mindful. You can check their website, it still says that, and that's the way that operates there on that platform. So we've got near and W, so near and within there as well. And we're trying to incorporate that into our search. So we will go to a live demonstration. We'll spend largely the time on CINAHL, but we'll switch to MEDLINE at some point. We have some other things to cover in this session. So what I'm going to do now is switch to the interface. So just bear with me. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're going to run the search now. So let's do that. So as we know, we're looking at adult cancer patients with fatigue. So we're going to start off with the cancer element. I will factor in adults at a later point. I'll just show you how you can do that in terms of filtering. So what I'm going to do here is just enter cancer. Now, I'm going to start including some of the wildcards that just so instead of cancer, it could be cancers or cancerous. So add the asterisk here. I'm going to add also oncology, but it could be oncologies, oncologic. So I'm going to truncate that as well. Okay. I'll just truncate it here. Okay, and with truncation, I think with the wildcards you need a minimum of 3 characters now to truncate, so I can verify that later perhaps. We've also got neoplasms, okay, and again we're using synonyms here, and also tumor, and again I'll use the hash wildcard here to compensate for the difference in spelling between US and UK English. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to use the title or abstract feature, and as you see when I click the drop down, that has now been changed. So the original slide from the previous session had and, it's now or. So that's been amended based on feedback from yourselves, other colleagues that may have commented on this before. So that's been now amended to reflect what users would typically expect when they're searching across title or abstract fields. So we're going to run this, and obviously run this on the advanced search page. So when I click search here, you'll see it comes up with the search history displayed, okay? With the results are below. So obviously this is the first set S1 that we're running, but we have the query with the field code indicated, obviously the truncations, etc. included. The search options, although we've crossed it with the field code, so these won't really apply. These are still detailed, so proximity search mode is on, apply between subjects is applied, although not necessarily working in relation to this term because we are qualifying it with the field code, and then with the results, and we have the indication that we're using the CINAHL database, and there's also the tools menu to edit the search, add to project. We can say more about that in the next session, part 2, and you can delete if you make a mistake, etc., or when I start again. So this is the search history. It can be hidden, by the way. So this feature has been around for several months now. released back in October. So the second element we're going to look at is the equivalent subject term for cancer and related terms. So for that, we'll click New Search. We can go to CINAHL headings on the left-hand column, by the way, under Research Tools to browse the source. But I'm going to click New Search here and go to the CINAHL's tab. And I'm just going to put in cancer here and search. So you can see here, it's prompted me to use neoplasms. So this is the CINAHL index term. It may be different in MEDLINE. You'd have to check mesh, but it's saying use neoplasms. So we can click on this term here. I can select it from this menu. There's the scope note, by the way, description of this term, this CINAHL heading. I can use other terms as well. Obviously, cancer fatigue is important here. Cancer survivors, chemotherapy, oncology. I can select those as well. I can view the terms within the subject tree. As you see here, I can expand those if I need to as well. You see neoplasms can also include cancer-associated fibroblasts and childhood neoplasms as well, as we've got the explode option, okay, there as well. And you can expand this to also see the subheadings as well. So depending on the nature of the search, you could be more focused. For example, you can like diagnosis there, etc., or ethnology and so on. So, and you'll see each of these subheadings has its own scope note as well. So you can select individual subheadings as well, but I'm going to include them all by default. And then once you've selected them, click Add to Search, and you'll see these terms are added in the top search box. You can see we've got MH is the field code, so that indicates these are exact CINAHL subheadings, and you can see that from the drop-down menu with the description there. So exact subheading MH. Okay, and I've got plus sign indicate that neoplasms will include those other narrow terms, etc. So they're grouped together as one set. I click search and they'll be added to the search history, which means I can combine the two together. So we're looking at anything related to cancer, essentially. We haven't specified the type of cancer. So it could be colorectal, it could be breast cancer, it could be throat cancer and so on, but it's general. So we'll combine the two sets. So select both sets. And then we'll combine with OR, as these are the title or abstract search combined with the subject search for the same condition. And then we'll click search here. Now, as you can appreciate, we did mention the matter of fatigue. So these are cancer patients who are in particularly experiencing fatigue. So what I'm going to do here is do a separate search for fatigue and then combine it with this search. So again, just bear with me as I do that. Again, any questions, comments, please let me know. So I'm going to put fatigue, but I'm also going to truncate it. So it could be fatigued as well, right? So I will also add, let's see, lethargy, which could be lethargic. So again, I'm going to truncate this term. Likewise, tire or exhaustion. Let's see, tire. I'll put tire. It could be tiring or tired. Actually, it could be tiring as well. So I guess we could truncate further. But for now, we'll just truncate it in this fashion. And then we'll also add the other term, which is exhaustion or exhausted, etc. So again, I'm going to truncate this term. Okay, so again, these are all truncated search terms, free text terms, and I'm going to qualify this with the title or abstract search here and run the search here. Now, I'll show you in a moment, if you do make mistakes or if you yourself spot errors in my searching here, then what we can also do is go in and you'll see the tools menu again. You can go in, edit the search here, click edit search, and I can change these things here. Okay, so I can make changes here. I can add other terms if I feel there should be more added. Okay, then I'll just click update search and it will rerun with the updated search. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. But again, you can edit these line by line. So for each of these lines, you'll see the edit search option as well. So now we're going to look at the equivalent subject search here. So again, we can click new search to clear screen, go to CINAHL headings and enter the term. So again, it's going to be fatigue. Okay, and you'll see the word fatigue appears. We've got other forms of fatigue too. So what we'll do, we'll click on the CINAHL heading there. We'll select fatigue. Again, you can see here a state of feeling severely overtired, etc. We'll choose exertion as well. And then we can also scroll down and see if there's anything else we might want to include here. So we've got mental fatigue there as well. Okay. if there's anything else. Let's see, I think that's what I had originally. I've run this search a number of different times and keep adjusting it, which is what you'd expect to do. Okay. And I think I'm satisfied with that. And notice on the bottom right, above my taskbar, you'll see there's an arrow there. So you can quickly go back to the top of the screen, and then you can add this search, and you'll see it includes the 3 CINAHL headings, 2 which are exploded with the plus sign indicated, and then click search here. So this is the first part of the PICO or PICO. This is the patient problem population element. So I've covered the matter of cancer, we've looked at fatigue, and now we combine the 2 sets together, S3, S1, and then combine with OR and search. So we need to make sure that what we're finding relates to cancer patients with fatigue. And of course, we are going to factor adults into it a bit later as well. So we've got the initial search here. We can resort this. We'll do that a bit later, but there is the ID option with the arrows there, and you can, just where I'm hovering over now, you can resort so you can see the sequence S1, S2, S3, and so on. But we're going to move on to the next element, which relates to let's see. Yep. So we want those. Okay, we've got, in fact, I need to double check here. Yeah, so what I need to do is just now combine S3 and S6 with and, the Boolean and. So we want basically anything related to cancer combined with anything related to fatigue, exhaustion, etc. in one set. So we use the Boolean and for this one, and then we'll click search here. Okay. So that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have to double check here what I'm doing. Okay, that's right. No, sorry. Let me just do this again. So I'm going to show you how to delete now because I just realized I did something not correct. So you can delete line by line. You get confirmation if you need to delete the set. So I'm going to. So I've got. So I meant to combine S4, not this one. So I'm going to delete this one as well. Okay, so let me just delete this. Okay, so good demonstration that you can delete here. So in fact, what I might do here, just click ID here, and you can see where we started from, S1 or S2. It should be S4 or S5 combined with OR, and you see that at the top search box. Click search here. Okay, so now we're back on track, and I can combine S3, S6 together, and then use and that appears in the top search box, and then click search. Sorry, just an oversight of mine there. But again, just handily demonstrates that you can actually edit searches quite easily. You can delete, so you can edit, and you can also delete as well within the search history now on this interface. So once we've done that, we'll move on to the next element. So that is the meditation. So for that, we're going to use truncation again. So meditate. So we'll just do this. I think I'll actually just like this, and then or mindfulness. It can be mindfulness therapy. So we just do a search for mindfulness. Okay, or mindful. Okay, and then combine that with breathe or breathing. So breathe or breathing, and then or yoga, which you mentioned earlier in the PowerPoint, or the guided imagery. And I'll use double quotation marks for that as an exact phrase as well. Okay, so if we're satisfied with that, we can run that as a title or abstract search again, click search, and then we move on to the equivalent subject search again. And you'll see that appearing below. And then go to new search. So my mouse has just stopped here. Okay, and then we'll do CINAHL headings, and we'll look for, let's see, meditation. So again, we just start off with a browsing of the thesaurus, and then you'll see meditation appears at the top of the list, and then we can select meditation from here. And as you scroll down, you'll see again what it's used for. Obviously the scope notes there, and also where it appears in the subject tree. Okay, so we can look at other things. For example, we've got relaxation techniques as well. Scroll down, we've got guided imagery here as well, mind-body techniques, and so on. So again, there's other terms, including yoga, also factored here that we could incorporate into our search. So again, scroll back to the top or jump to the top, click add to search, and you'll see those terms are listed. And then we can run a search on the subject equivalent of meditation within CINAHL. Okay, so again, we can combine the two sets. Notes resorted to the default sort, which is reverse chronological order. So we'll combine S8, S9 together in one set. This is the intervention we're looking at with OR, and then click search. And next thing then, I'm just going to check if there's any questions here. We are going to look at the quality of life. So that's the next thing we're going to focus on before we combine all the sets together. So for this, we'll look at a range of terms that we could use. And I'm going to again use the near operator here in this instance. So we could be, so quality of life could be life quality. So we could put quality and one life. So that could be quality of life or life quality combined with QOL as the acronym, abbreviation. Then we've also got well-being. So that could be one word, or it could be more than one. So we could put being and one well. Okay, so that could be well-being or being well, you know, in terms of more than one word. I like the first rendering, which is this one word. For your information, also hyphens are ignored as well. So if I put well hyphen being or well dash being, it would ignore that particular character. And then the other one is living quality. So it could be quality of living or living quality. So again, I can put in living and one quality. Okay, so this is again a title abstract search. So I'm going to choose that option, the fill code, and run the search here. And then finally, we're looking at so we're not having a direct comparison. That's standard care. It's kind of implied. So we're not having a direct comparison. This is the outcome for the PICO framework. And then we'll go to new search and look at the equivalent for the quality of life. Okay. So again, we've got the option to choose from this menu or click on the term itself to see if there's any other terms that we might want to use. Quality of life is there. Notice, of course, when we choose that, it's exploded automatically. So it includes comfort, occupation, quality of working life as well. And it also allows you to select from the headings, the subheadings also, if you prefer to do that. You can look through the rest and to see if there's any others that might be of interest. But for now, we'll stick with that one. Add it to the search. Again, we'll see that in the top search box. Click search and we'll retrieve records indexed with quality of life and those other narrow terms. So now we can combine this final set. We're not going to look at the time frame, as it were, in this instance, but we'll combine S11 with S12 with OR here. And then click search. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reorder this in terms of the sequence we ran this search. So I'm going to click the ID option above the set number, S13 on the left. Click that, and you'll see the terms in sequence. So we had the element on cancer, which is combined is S3. The reference to fatigue, that's S6, and then the two are combined S7. So that's the cancer patients with fatigue. Then we've got the intervention. So both for the title abstract search, the meditation, mindfulness, yoga, etc., combined with S10 with the subject search, and then we've got quality of life. So we've got essentially three sets to combine. The initial set S7, then S10, and then S13. So we're going to combine these three sets, use the combine with and, so click combine with and then click search. Okay, so if we scroll down, you'll see we've got this set now. We've got 548 results at this stage. Okay, so this would reflect obviously articles that refer to, you know, cancer patients, fatigue, meditation, mindfulness, etc., guided imagery, yoga, and also quality of life. But we want to also factor in the fact that we're looking at adult cancer patients, not children, not pediatrics. So what we could do here is use the filter under all filters here. On the right, you'll see there is the age filter, which is also the same in MEDLINE. You also have the option for filtering by age group, and we can see all adults here. We can select that. Okay, and also we can factor in the publication date. So we're going to look at the last 10 years. So we've got past 10 years, so anything published since 2015 is, or 2016 now, January 2016, that relate to adults as well, and apply here. So we end up with a focused set of search results. Okay, so 177. Okay, and if we scroll down, so you can see here now in the search history, we've got the obviously the detailed search, the set number, we've got the search strings with the field codes, the wildcards, explode options indicated, the search options are indicated also, which ones are currently set, as it were, the results per line, per set as well, the hit count, and then you can see the database that we're looking at is CINAHL throughout, and then again those three options there. So we won't cover into saving today, we'll cover that in the next session. But we have got a search here, and you can see the results below here as well. So again, you can look at these first two, which happen to be, I think, related. So similar, but they are relevant to our search. And you can see we've got the results sorted by relevance, and that's based on the ranking of the subject terms, the CINAHL headings that you see below these records. So for example, you can see the entire list of subject headings here for this item, also with the words appearing in the title or in the abstract as well. So basically we have a ranking algorithm. Relevancy is based on that, determined by, in this case, CINAHL headings, so the source, terms, the control vocabulary, next the title or abstract, also author supply keywords, and finally full text, so where the terms appear in the full text record. So there is a reason for ranking, and also in terms of where the ranking may be equal in terms of those elements, there's also the matter of the type of literature you find, the length of a document, the currency is the second thing actually. So you'll see the most current, so this is August 2025, this one is April 2025, and so on. Again, this is July. So again, obviously the initial ranking is based on the words appearing in the subject fields, the title abstract, but then there's also the currency as well. So we have those results there, of course, and we may look for articles which are specifically related to our search to retrieve, to identify any other terms that may be out there as well. So again, it's something to consider when you're looking at these results, to explore obviously the keywords I mentioned, the title field and the abstract, and also the subject headings. So by default, you'll notice on the interface, the abstract, the subject fields are collapsed. That reduces the cognitive load. It means also less clutter on the screen, but you can expand these fields to view them in more details. We do have a setting in EBSCO Experience Manager, which is the other admin tool, manage the interface, and that allows you to have the abstract displayed by default if you prefer. So you get all these abstracts displayed as open if that's your preferred way of display results and is of benefit to your students, faculty, and so on, okay, or any clinicians that you're supporting as well. Okay, so that is much of the time here. So that's the initial searching, obviously quite methodical, taking into account the title abstract searching. You may just run the default unqualified search represented by all fields here, etc., and combined with the subject fields as well. So what I'm going to do here at this stage, I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint, as we need to also consider the use of methodological search filters. So we have a copy of the search history here, which I run today, and you'll see I've got it broken down into the elements which I mentioned, the patient or problem population element, which relates to cancer. Also, also factors in the fatigue, exhaustion, etc. And then also the intervention relates to meditation. So again, I've grouped each of these sets in turn. And then also the outcome relates to quality of life. And of course, as you saw, I combined these elements into one set and then filtered by publication date and also adults, which is recorded in the search history as well. So just to recap there, what we've done. Now, I mentioned the syntax earlier. It's important to use the appropriate syntax for the EBSCOhost interface. We have these help sheets for CINAHL and also MEDLINE. They've been updated recently, so they refer to the various elements that you can use, including wildcards, proximity searching as well for the databases. So again, you can refer to them. There is a link available within the PowerPoint. So if you have any problems accessing that information, please let us know. But they are available on the EBSCO Connect portal. So again, to assist you with further searching on the new interface. So that syntax, by the way, has not changed. Apart from XB, it's by and large the same as it was for the classic interface for CINAHL and MEDLINE. Now, I just want to introduce the methodological search filters as we get towards the end of the session. So there are these shortcuts that you can use to identify high quality evidence. Again, and that may be the initial starting place to see what's been done before, especially if you're identifying, past reviews and so on. So the first one to mention is evidence-based practice filter for CINAHL. And when you apply this filter, it will limit your results to articles from evidence-based practice journals, like evidence-based nursing, articles about evidence-based practice, research articles, which means you identify systematic reviews, clinical trials, meta-analyses, and so on, and also commentaries on research studies where you have applied practice to research. So it's just a tick box essentially on the home page for advanced search, and that will allow you to filter your results to evidence-based practice content and so on. MEDLINE has something similar, and that limits the EBM reviews filter, and you use it in the same way by selecting the option under the filters on the advanced search page, that it does limit to the Cochrane database of systematic reviews. So we'll see if Cochrane have produced anything. You can quickly identify that from the research results. ACP Journal Club, also clinical evidence, evidence-based mental health, and so on. So essentially, the limiter is valuable because it limits your search to a small set of titles that apply very strict criteria and thus include high quality evidence-based content, including systematic reviews. Okay, so you can even search for a keyword or a short search, and then you can apply this limiter and retrieve a set of more valuable results quickly. So again, if you want to see what's out there initially, to see perhaps what's been done before, or to get additional clues for what search terms you could be looking for, that could also be helpful. We also have the clinical queries as well, both for CINAHL and MEDLINE. So CINAHL has 5 clinical queries. These 5 research areas covered: therapy, prognosis, review, qualitative research, and etiology or causation. We have more information on the EBSCO Connect portal as well for this. But essentially, as you see here on this screenshot, you have the various options to choose from. So for therapy, you have high sensitivity, high specificity, or best balance. So, and that's the same for each of those 5 areas. So high sensitivity would be the broadest search, includes all relevant material, but it may include some less relevant content. High specificity is the most targeted search, and that will include only the most relevant result set. And then best balance retrieves the best balance between sensitivity and specificity. And the same again for prognosis, review, and so on. So to give you an example of what that looks like, in terms of the actual strategies, this is therapy. You'll see the strategy for high sensitivity, the search string, which factors in the CINAHL headings, also title abstract searching, using the fill codes directly, etc. If you look at the high specificity, you see truncation used there, and also the double quotation marks for double-blind studies. And then also you see with best balance, you've got the use of PT or publication type for clinical trials. So there are these search strategies that have been designed, prepared by the Health Information Research Unit at McMaster University in Canada. They are the ones who've created these search strings for these areas that can be run as clinical queries within the EBSCO's interface. And then MEDLINE also has additional clinical queries as well, including clinical prediction guides, costs and economics as well as diagnosis. So again, you can use it in the same way. And also we have, again, information on the various strategies that are behind these. So the example here is diagnosis. So for diagnosis, for high specificity, you're performing basically a title or abstract search for specificity, and then you see the best balance and also the high sensitivity there as well. So again, although you're selecting from the drop-down menu, you cannot see the actual strategy. These are displayed in the EBSCO support material, and a link again is provided for you there. Okay, so just to demonstrate this quickly, so what I might do is I'm going to switch databases here. I wouldn't advise doing it this way, but we are going to go back to the desktop here. So we've got the search for CINAHL here. So what I might do is quickly just jump back to, I'm going to switch to in fact, let me just come out of that. Let me just explain again. So if we click new search here, you can add your search here. You can add more rows here, by the way, and then you can filter here with search filters, and you'll see evidence-based practices here. Okay, So for example, I just do an example. If I did carpal tunnel syndrome, okay, and if I did physiotherapy, for example, and I'll truncate that just to find more hits, as it were, physiotherapy, okay, and then I wanted a quick search and just to find what's out there, what's been done before, maybe get some clues for searching later on. Then I select evidence-based practice, and I can click search here to retrieve records, and I've got 21 here. Okay, so if I scroll down, I'll hide the search history here. You'll see the results are here. Okay, and you see the terms highlighted and so on. If you want to identify which publications they come from, then just go to all filters, and then you see publication here, and you see the different publications, and you can also sort them alphabetically here as well. So again, this is where it's applying, this is more evidence-based content, as it were. So see, the first one is a set review, etc. There's another one, set review and meta-analysis. So again, you're filtering very quickly to high quality evidence, and then you can explore that. Of course, you may want to look at the full text as well if it's available. You can go in either PDF or online and view that with more detail available. Okay, so we're going to all those steps there. So if we just jump back a bit, what I'll do, go into MEDLINE. So I click CINAHL and I'll switch to MEDLINE here. Okay, and then if I wanted to rerun a search here, I'm just going to rerun this search string here, what we did earlier. So in fact, this one. Okay, see if I can get this to work on here. I know it's the filter. I wouldn't advise generally rerunning a search in MEDLINE. In fact, I'm back on CINAHL actually. Sorry about that. It won't work that way. So let me just do this. Come out here. In fact, let me just stay in here for now. So what I'm going to show you here is also, so we came up with this result set. If you go to the original page, we started from, again, filters here. You will see we've got clinical queries. These are the queries that can be run against a search. Again, if you wanted to run a search. So for example, we can use the same example here. Let's just do this quickly for sake of time. So if I just do the same search here, I'll do physiotherapy. Okay, I'll just use this term. I'll use these terms for the drop down. These are just popular searches used by other users. And then if I apply clinical queries now, then so high specific therapy, then I can run the search here. I've got 56 references. Again, you'll see the terms being highlighted. This is a randomized controlled trial, clinical trial, etc., and so on. And again, you can check the publications for where they originate from, and you can use other filters applied as well. Okay, so if you are in MEDLINE, I'll click New Search here and switch to MEDLINE briefly. Okay, you'll see the equivalent options. So EBM reviews is here, and then you have the clinical queries filter also listed here as well. Okay, so again, I think because of time, I'll just skip that for now. So those are available. And just to clarify then, so for any of the things that you've seen today, we do offer support and help there online. So you see the help menu here. I mentioned the search options originally. You'll find the context-sensitive help menu for each of the search modes and expanders is there. Plus, we have the help menu online and the research tools. And that will take you to this page, unless you've had this adapted for your institution. If you're already live with the EBSCOhost interface, this may direct your users to a bespoke help page, contact point within your website, etc. But generally speaking, by default, it takes you to the new EBSCOhost interface quick start guide. There's a tutorial there, an overview. We have frequently asked questions there also. There's also information on release notes for changes, and also other elements there, searching again, searching with wildcards. Again, there's more information on using those as well. Okay, and there's a reference here to as of December, so last month, the asterisk wildcard requires at least 3 leading characters now. Okay, so it's 3 words and more. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here briefly, sharing here. So we had the demonstration of the filters, and also just importantly, just to also outline the effort that we're making now at EBSCO to support systematic reviews in terms of obviously identifying the needs when you're using Prisma and so on, or you're checking your review, etc., the process. Then obviously you can see the database indicated in the search history now. There's also the amount of studies that are identified, or at least initially in the search experience, etc., and also the date when searches are run as well. We'll see that in the next session, part 2, when we look at downloading and also saving the search as well. So again, we'll cover some of that in the part 2 session. So you'll be able to record, download the search itself. We've just seen that live today. In terms of updates to the EBSCOhost interface, that's ongoing, of course. and you can see the most recent enhancements on this page, so which is the user interface update for advanced search and systematic reviews. So there's ongoing effort to roll out features, additional features that would enhance the experience. So in terms of take-home points, briefly, use PICO or PICOT or alternative frameworks. There are others out there to construct the search strategy. Some are more appropriate than others for your particular type, the content that you're searching for. Use a combination of free text or keyword searching, again, whether you're doing an unqualified free text search or a title or abstract, combined with the subheadings. So again, for MEDLINE, it's MESH, CINAHL subheadings, and it might have other control vocabularies for other databases that you'd use. And also use the EBSCO syntax for databases. I've mentioned that a couple of times already today. And consider using those methodological search filters when available to identify key articles. So it could be the clinical queries, or it might be the evidence-based practice filter or EBM reviews filter for MEDLINE. And that will give you clues for other search terms. In terms of training support, I have included some links in the PowerPoint, again, referencing some of the features I've covered today. I haven't covered all these elements today, but at least you'll have some there that you can refer to. And then also EBSCO Connect is the default site essentially for support materials, etc. So connect.ebsco.com. And in addition to that, we do have a training resources portal specifically set up to support users, yourselves as library staff, to collate relevant material content related to healthcare databases, whether it's a recording, a previous recording, or it is upcoming training sessions and support materials as well. So just to end there, to say thank you for attending today's session. So obviously you can contact me directly at rquicks@ebsco.com or speak to your local EBSCO account team if necessary.